Here's the thing. If you don't like yourself, you can just change. That feels very defensive for a lot of people, because when you think about your significant other or a friend or a loved one who criticizes you, you feel personally attacked, like they are attacking some part of you. This is who I am, you say. But let's think for a minute, how much of yourself are you really? I would say I am maybe 10% of myself. The rest of me are conditioning that I've chosen to adopt. Religion, culture, your friends, your upbringing, the things that you chose to become interested in. Even the fact that you were interested in those things were driven by the culture that you were in. So there is very little of you that's truly unique. In fact, what is truly unique? When you think of every word that I say that I string into poetry, there's no truly original poem, but there's a beauty in the way that some people string those words together. There's no truly original song because every chord has already been played, but there is just something magical about someone who knows how to put them together in a special way. And we think, and so maybe if we were not so attached to these versions of ourselves, maybe we could just change and step into this era of becoming her. There's this thing that goes around, or I suppose it's been there a while, that goes around on, is it YouTube? Like this idea of like the it girl and lucky girl syndrome. And I find that quite interesting, because when I was lacing up my shoes last night for gym, or the night before, and I kind of just felt like, am I going to go to gym? Am I not going to go to gym? And the immediate answer was, of course I'm going to go to gym. And I started lacing up my shoes and I was like, hold a minute. There was a version of me that never in a million years thought that she would be the person that automatically goes to gym. Like the idea of me and being fit was so far apart. I was the cultural, more academic kid in school. There was just no part of me that ever imagined that I would be able to reach that point where I would be fit. I thought if I'm ever going to be there, I should marry like a bodybuilder or something, because then they would maybe like force me to be part of that lifestyle. But then instead of marrying the guy that was the gym bro, the bodybuilder, I was like, what if I just became the person that I wanted to marry? Then I wouldn't really need anyone, because I would be that person for myself. That was my, I guess, inherently selfish reason for feeling like I could just become that person. And I've always loved this idea of jackets. So Jim Quick has this idea of, if you don't believe that you are the person that can do something impossible or do something hard or do something uncomfortable, you can just superimpose your psyche into something imaginary. Like think about how kids make believe or play make believe, and when they do it with such conviction that they actually land up being, probably smarter and stronger because of those beliefs that they are that person. They show up in that same way, and they kind of inherently know how to show up. They're really able to tap into this other persona. And I think we're able to do the exact same thing. And that is the concept that I call jackets, where I imagine myself being an accumulation of all of my favorite traits of other people. That's my goal really in life, is to accumulate and surround myself with people who just have these things that are absolutely irresistible about them. And the beautiful thing about realizing the interconnectedness of everything is realizing that what you see in another person, if they are a mirror to you, then you are only able to recognize in them what already exists in yourself. And that is so beautiful, to be able to see different versions of yourself. And by having the ability to fall in love with and romanticize your life in that way, you realize you became, or you become the main character of your story. I mean, there's definitely some Alan Watts thoughts that come in there, where you are not just, the game, but you are the space in which the game happens. Kind of like this idea that, you're not a drop in the ocean, but you're the entire ocean in one drop. There's a quote that is so cool. Something about life not being this fixed game that some external authority is controlling, but rather this cosmic, ever-changing, fluid dance where you are both the choreographer and the dancer. Something in that line. And that's very much how I feel about jackets, and how I feel about understanding just how changeable you are, and that you are not stuck anywhere. There is this thought that I am inadequate, but at some stage we have to come to realize that that thought, much like a dream, is just a fragment of an old belief. And if I don't have to fear it because it isn't some enemy, it's just a fragment of an old belief. It's just something that is, much like, you are not rainy or cloudy or sunny. You are all of it. You are the sky that contains all of it. That is when I can get into that mindset of, okay, I have these labels that I'm putting on myself that don't actually belong to me. And when I was going to gym and I was tying my shoelaces, coming back to that story, and I was driving on my way to gym, I was like, I cannot believe that you are... Little Erin would have never saw this coming. She would have never believed that you would become that person. And I've definitely seen that. I remember another time while I was skiing in Korea, one of the most phenomenal experiences of my life. And I was sitting in the little hockey thing, and my friend Susie turned to me and said, but of course you would find this easy, or you would find this doable. I guess she was surprised at how surprised I was at my ability to manage standing up when I really did not think I would manage that, because I was, like I said, in school, I was not sporty then, and I'm not sporty now. There's also a very big difference between sporty and athletic, or even sporty and fit. I think I'm fit. So many people have asked me to be their paddle partners, and I wish I could explain to them the severity of how bad I am at ball sport. And it's fine that I'm bad at it, because I'm untrained at it. I don't have any ego in the game, because I'm trained at being a fit person, not at being a sporty person. I've chosen a different sport, and that is fitness. But yes, the point being that it is just so surprising to both myself and Susie in this moment that I am surprised at my own ability on the ski slopes. And she was like, yeah, but I mean, you fit, like, you kind of should have this belief in yourself because of you've been a fit person your whole life. How could you not believe this? And I was like, I have not been a fit person my whole life. This is a very new belief for me. It was probably like 5 years old, so it wasn't that new. But it still felt really new, like that I hadn't solidified that was exactly who I was. And I guess I was still in the process of repeating the habit of going when I didn't feel like it. So much so that when I was deciding whether or not to go to gym the other day, it my identity as a fit person would have been challenged if I didn't go. And I really just wanted to maintain that homeostasis, the cognitive dissonance of not going. That pain felt worse than actually just going. And then when I arrived at gym, and it's just Ali and I in the gym because I think no one booked for the 6 o'clock class, I just had like the biggest moment of glee, because it went all the way back to when one day I was going to, marry the gym bro because he would force me to go to a gym. In that moment, I realized, no, I would have never gone to gym if someone else forced me. I always had to become that person, and it was only in the becoming that I found my identity in it. When I stopped waiting for the outcome and started realizing that this journey of going forever and ever and never stopping is the whole game. And that's really what this week in the Audacity Challenge has, the mindset that I've been trying to get around, is this idea of wagons that I've been speaking so much about to all of my friends that speak to me about this stuff, is that the wagon is the illusion, because we can just become that person if we want to. It does take work, but no one is stopping us from becoming anything and everything we want to be. I am now on this fitness wagon, and I no longer fear falling off of the wagon because it is who I am. It's now my identity. And in a similar way, I'll be talking to someone about they want to make reels, and I'll say, okay, cool, what do you want to make? And then they're like, oh yeah, and basically the story always comes around to, but it's so natural for you, and I'm just not like that. I'm so awkward on camera. And I was like, go and look at my Instagram. I have done like 1,200, which is maybe like a quarter of what some people have done, and like more than some people will ever do. Because it is always a spectrum. There's always someone way ahead of you and way below you. The whole game is rigged. You are never going to catch up anyway. That's just a side note. The point being that I had to become her, and that the point being that no one ever feels natural on camera at first. No one, and this whole week I've had weird creation days where I just feel like, what the heck am I doing? Sometimes you just don't know how something's gonna land. I'm like, why am I, doing things that make me feel so uncomfortable? But on the other hand, there's something about just realizing that you can just try everything that you've always wanted to try in your life and see how it lands, and that's okay. Creating these 3 podcasts, if 3 is all I made, that was an adventure. I don't need to be so tied in the outcome. Of course, there is some hope that you will love it enough to continue and make a success of something and leave a lasting impact. But, I think if we surrendered more to the flow of life and we stopped seeing it as such a battle, that maybe we would. I don't know if that's true, but maybe. And so that's how I feel about being on the content creation wagon right now, is just that maybe if I just have more playfulness, and I, surrender to the fact that you're never going to figure out why, but you have to have your selfish reason as to why you do it, and keep tapping into that as much as you can, because at the end of the day, we are just human beings, not human doings. And we can't keep stacking on these roles, because at the end of the day, we're all just going to be devoid of them. And they're just distractions from realizing that you are already everything you want to be. It's this idea that I have with clients, especially when talking about food. And we have this week in the beginning, I call it the fuck it week, where I'm like, we're so scared to trust our bodies, especially as women, because society has told us so much. Do not trust your body under any circumstances. Do not trust your body. You must be your smallest possible self, and you must restrict and you must control. Like, Ali and I have such vastly different ideas of food. It is just mind blowing how he knows what kind of food he naturally likes. Like, I am not sure how much of my enjoyment of food comes from the fact that I associate health, and because I study nutrition, and because I came from a disordered eating background where I analyzed food so much. So I'm not sure if my love for blueberries is because they are healthy and, a really highly nutritious berry that actually lowers your blood sugar instead of spikes your blood sugar. It's such an amazing fruit. But I'm not sure if my love for them is the fact that I know that fact, or that I truly like the taste, because I've always valued what food can do for me, that it's either making me fat or thin, than actually valuing its taste and my enjoyment of it. And so I'm trying to step into a more hedonistic place where I'm not saying abandon the rules and abandon your responsibilities, but I'm just saying, what if we were just more playful with life and we realize that it's all just this big game, and you are making up all of the rules and all of the societal expectations that we have. We are society. We made them up. We can just change them. We can just value other things. And the whole society that values other things votes differently with their dollar and votes differently with their attention. And so if you think you can't make a difference, that's crazy. Of course you can make a difference. So coming back to the food thing, I tell my clients, we have a fuck it week, which means I want you to try and tap back into your pleasure. I want you to find your joy. I want you to groan with satisfaction when you eat something. That's the kind of food I want you to listen to your body in its craving and eat. Just that kind of food. Only things that make your heart sing. You don't want to eat raw spinach leaves. You don't eat raw spinach leaves. Now, I personally love it. Like, I'm sure that is something that I actually do love the taste, because my body craves it. And that's the kind of connection that you want to get to, that I'm trying to get to with all foods. Anyway, the point being, they are terrified. They are like, Erin, all I will eat all week is pizza and milkshakes. And I'm saying, what is 1 week? Go do it. Just humor me and do it for 1 week. But the reality is, between you and I, that it has never happened with everyone that's ever done this with me, and myself included. I've never spent the whole week only wanting pizza and milkshakes, because my body actually really loves healthy food, and it inherently craves healthy foods. And since meeting Ali and having a more healthy relationship with food, as I've been trying to get my whole life, but I feel like since him it's really just blossomed, I realized that I can trust my body the way that man trusts his body to tell him when he should rest, and when he can really push, and when he wants to eat a lot or when he wants to eat a little. It always knows exactly what he needs. And I realized, I think a lot of the battles I'm experiencing, and I told Ali this in the car last night, a lot of the battles I'm experiencing, I think I'm doing them to myself. Because honestly, it seems like you, Ali, struggle a lot less than I do in life, which is also one thing, because I think a very neurotypical person who is, a white male in a patriarchal society would struggle less in some degree, but not to the extent that I'm making it, as a neurodivergent woman in society. I think a lot of the struggles that I have are internal. They are self-imposed. And that comes from realizing that it is just a game, and that I can flow, that I can live in flow, and that I can trust myself. When I trust myself and I trust my body to tell me when it's full, to tell me when it's hungry, to tell me how much it wants, to tell me what it wants, and I eat intuitively with it, wow, I am a healthy human being when that happens. I really feel so connected to my body. And in the same way, I'm realizing that I can trust that life is conspiring for me. Because when I look around at the natural flow, I realize that you look at nature and everything has this weird intuition that it knows how to do. A flower knows how to do that beautiful flowery thing that it does, and a butterfly, that's so fascinating that they go through this whole metamorphosis. They know exactly what to do, and they don't have some higher intelligent consciousness to be able to verbalize it, because they don't need it, because it's actually just way more inherent in that, and it's the thing that does connect us to all of society, which is why I do so love being vegan, because I do feel this sense of, that is me voting with my dollar. That is me saying that given the option to choose cruelty or kindness, I can always choose kindness. And just by the way that I eat, I'm showing that I value something's life over my taste buds that change all the time. Taste buds and taste is such a temporary thing, yet it, much like our thoughts, we let it completely rule us. And people say, I could never give up cheese. I could never be vegan. I could never give up, even the really bad stuff like smoking or Coke. And my response to that is, you're probably right. Because of that mindset, you can't. Because when you realize how changeable and fluid you are, you realize that your taste buds are exactly the same. And as soon as you start slightly tweaking your diet and just removing some of the hyperpalatable foods, the really highly processed foods, the hydrogenated vegetable oil, some of the really sweet sucralose sweeteners that damage your gut microbiome, and your gut microbiome has time to regrow and your mouth has time to kind of reset, suddenly you can't believe the sweetness of sweet potato and the amount of flavor in an unbuttered, unsalted sweet corn. And then olive oil and salt truly becomes the only two flavors that you need. Even though, spices, you can't go your life without spice. But suddenly you can taste the depth of spice in a new way. And that's fullness and richness of life, is what comes when we trust ourselves. And so that's what I've really been working on with my mindset piece in the Audacity Challenge this week, was really just starting with a really selfish why. And I think it's because I just enjoy the process of becoming. And when we let go of the illusion of these wagons, we can become that person, because we're not fearing failure, because we understand that failure is part of the whole cosmic dance of getting us and directing us to exactly where we need to go. There is no winning the game. This is the game. The game is just you living in exactly the way that is most aligned to you, because only you are going to be the final witness of your life. Only you are going to live in your own body and go to sleep and wake up with your thoughts every day and every night. And imagine you had the power to control all of them, because we do. And imagine that you could realize that you are the writer and start writing the most beautiful scripts you could imagine for your life, and not waiting for the other shoe to drop, because you realize it never has to. You realize that a love like that is capable. And that's what I realized in the gym the other night, where I was like, wow. So I became the person I wanted to marry, and then I married someone so beyond, or I'm marrying someone so beyond who I thought I wanted. It's like I couldn't have drawn him up in a million of my 12-year-old journals. He is so beyond anything I could have imagined. He's everything that I didn't know I needed. It is the strangest thing. And for the first time in my life, I'm so comfortable being myself, because he is a mirror through and then in his eyes I get to see myself, and I love the person that I am with him. He so wholly accepts who I am and praises and supports and loves who I am, that I feel like I want to do that more too. Oh, now I'm sad I'm not wearing my engagement ring. Why, Jim, do you make me take off my rings? It is just a beautiful experience when you become comfortable in the journey of this becoming. And that's what this week of Audacity is, being comfortable in the journey of becoming and playing this game that I'm going to, of course, make everyone who joins the Audacity Challenge, when I open it, do, which is, I'm the kind of person who, finish that sentence, I'm the kind of person who never hits snooze. Yeah, that's something that I've always been super thinking about. And now my body just responds that I am no longer someone who can hit snooze. It is not physically possible for me because I have made that my identity. People will say, of course it's easy for you to put together these lunches and dinners and like healthy foods. Like, of course it's all like there in your brain. And I'm like, do you know how many nutrition textbooks I have read for that? I have earned the ability to do that. And guess what? I love it. I love it so much more than I ever thought I would, that I'm never going to stop. And that's what happens when we let go of control and we start just trusting that if we lean in towards the things that we love and we stop fearing that we're not going to be good enough and we just show up enough times anyway, that maybe something will just land. And I can't be really sure of that yet. I will let you know. But that's what I'm hoping for. And there's so many more wagons that I would like to jump onto. So that's why I'm really having this past week of coaching with myself, because if I can become that person in fitness, and I can become that person in wellness, and I can become that person in the kitchen and developing recipes, then surely I can become that person in finance. Surely I can build up that repetition in editing videos. Surely I can build up that repetition in understanding business and marketing and how to, survive in the world. Maybe I can figure all of those things out. Maybe I just need to become the kind of person who gets excited about doing invoicing, gets excited about understanding business. And I'm also the kind of person who has a deep want to share and help other people. And that's why doing this, even if only a few people get to see this, feels so magical. Because when all is said and done and we come back to this why of why we do things, then we all have pretty similar ones. And I think mine lies somewhere in significance and somewhere in making an impact and being remembered, and not necessarily for who I am, or, it's that whole feeling of like, it doesn't matter, people will not remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And it's just getting to make people realize how wildly capable they are. Because I'm trying to convince myself here, listen, I wish I had this stuff figured out. Because if I did, I feel like maybe I would be getting to some destination. But then I realized there is no destination. You see, I'm still playing with all of these concepts and ways of life myself, but I can just tell you that the more I let myself believe that life is happening for me and not to me, the more beautiful things seem to become. And before you know it, you blink and you realize that manifestation was never you meditating and hoping for a certain thing, because most of the time we're actually hoping against ourselves. We're saying, I don't want to be this, I don't want to be that, and we're actually fixated on what we don't want instead of what we do want. But when we realize that manifestation was actually just your brain playing these games where I feel like your brain doesn't know the difference between what's really happening and what you're imagining, which is why we can imagine something delicious and salivate, and when we can think of something anxiety provoking and suddenly our heart starts beating like it's actually happening, or like it's a real threat, when it's just a fear of something that doesn't even exist in the future. And if we use that knowledge to actually manifest as in rewrite the story, even if, the day didn't go as you wanted and you definitely did not show up how you wanted, that little bit of reflection at night where you lie and say, this is how I would have liked to have shown up, and you actually almost pretend you role play like you did show up, I swear you show up a little bit differently the next day. And that's where I'm hoping to step into in this upcoming week with the next step of the Audacity Challenge as well, is trying to really instill that idea of showing up before you're ready, because that's how we're going to jump into these different wagons and realize that there are no more wagons, we're not falling off the wagons, we are the wagons. So we are just going to keep becoming wagons and throwing these cool things onto our backs and not being scared that they're ever going to fall off, because we're just going to become that person by falling in love with that process of becoming, or maybe I shouldn't even say becoming, of just being. Understanding that when you trust your body to eat until you're full and stop and eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, is also understanding that you can trust yourself. You can trust yourself. That's in all regards. You can trust yourself to choose the right partner. You can trust yourself to take the right risks. And there's really very little to fear, because you've definitely got your own back. And there is this play, this dance with you and life that you are. I mean, that you're so connected that you are it. But when we realize that it is just this play, that it's happening for us, we can actually just sit back and feel. Because the more we feel into what's meant for us, the more we behave in that way. And the more we behave in that way, the more we become it, and blink 10 years later and we have a life that we could have never dreamed of or have imagined. And I feel like that's where I am now, at this beautiful place where things are just aligning so beautifully. And is it going to stay that way? No, of course not. But I'm hoping that I'm not going to let the fear of things changing keep me from just giving my all. When you don't see failure as the problem, but you see it as just like a very necessary part of the plan of learning, of redirection, then maybe it just becomes less scary, and maybe you just take more risks, and maybe you just are more yourself, and maybe in that process you give other people the freedom to be more themselves. That's the hope. So if you want to play this game with me over next week, I'm going to, of course, be continuing it. In every week I'm trying to stack on the last week's things in this Audacity Challenge. So we had the time audit, and I had the lifestyle audit, and this week was finding my selfish why and then becoming that person, or becoming the person that in the ways that I feel like I haven't yet become. That's going to be an ongoing challenge, because finance, businessy stuff, I'm gonna have to keep embodying somebody. I'm gonna have to embody my inner Ali for finance, and it's still a work in progress, friends. But I'm the kind of person who, finish the sentence, play that game with yourself this week and see how you go. Go and do and be your most audacious self. And I will see you here next week for week 3 of the Audacity Challenge, week 3 of me chatting about it on a podcast. And we are going to, like I said, be working on jumping in before you're ready. And also I'll definitely put out the put out the meditation episode for you guys as well. And I do also want to record 2 meditations, so I'll see if I enjoy doing that and if you enjoy listening to it. Go out there and be your most audacious self.